You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Right, Chris.
Alrighty, good evening. Welcome along. How the devil are you? As we always say, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello. Wherever you are in the world, one of those will apply to you. As it says going across the bottom there now, this is the Premier League preview show. Thank you for watching. If you are on YouTube, please join in the chat. We've got a guest coming in a minute, Rich from United TV. He'll be talking all things Red Devils. I must admit, I was panicking earlier. We have had a water outage around where I live, and I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? Because there's no water, the toilet wasn't flushing. I thought, can't have a bath or a shower. And I thought, we're playing United. I'll just go up to Old Trafford and buy a ticket. If it rains, I'll have a free shower there. Cheap shot, I know. But look, it's allowed. It's all banter. This is the preview show. Let's get Rich in. And remember, follow us on your favourite your favourite social media platform. You see, trying to be clever, I can't get my words out now. And subscribe to this video, click the like button, and click that notification bell. This is, like I say, the Premier League show. Good evening. Good evening, Rich.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm all right. I apologise. That was a very cheap shot at the beginning, but you would have expected nothing less of me.
No, not at all. I think, there's not much you can say about that, is there? There's an underinvestment in the stadium, and hopefully we'll get a new one at some point, though maybe a few years down the line.
Well, you never know. You never know. We'll obviously talk about what's going on at United, but it's been a while, and I remember we were just having a quick chat then before we came live, and I was saying about being back in VAR. You've never had the worry about what it's like to play in the Championship since before Jesus was born, but I mean it was so enjoyable last season with no VAR, yet the referee got decisions wrong, but you kind of understood that if he did, that you might get one later in the season. And with VAR, if they get it wrong, they shouldn't be getting it wrong. They should be getting it right straight away.
It should have made it easier, shouldn't it? And it hasn't. So I think it's a bit disappointing.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. I have put your link in the description on YouTube. Just give a shout out as to where people can find you.
Yeah, so if people look for United TV or RD United TV, I think both of those you'll find us. And it's like I said, it's going to be Manchester United content, but also we try and cover like some general Premier League content as well when we can, and we welcome all fans that even if they just want to turn up to try and make jokes about the stadium roof, everybody's welcome. But it's going to be biased though. Like we're not going to say anything else. It's going to be Manchester United positive, hopefully, although not quite so much recently, but hopefully soon.
Well, look, it's football, isn't it? We all have the ups and downs.
Ups and downs.
Melissa, honestly, I can't get my words out today. Melina's in. Good evening, Melina. Happy Friday to you as well. And she says, good evening to you as well, Rich.
Hi, Mel.
She has been an Arsenal fan, of course. She's come along to see what the good clubs talk about. But look, I want to that'll upset her straight away. I want to start by obviously, look, we can't not talk about this. Another change of manager, and do you feel it is like becoming a bit of a joke now? I mean, I know Chelsea, they changed their manager, but every time they change the manager, they seem to win something. I mean, I made the comment the other day about, if you're not careful, you could end up sort of becoming, a more expensive Watford. Do you think changing the manager is really going to change things, or do you think it goes a lot deeper than that?
Well, I think if you look, since Alex Ferguson, Manchester United have had quite a lot of managers, but they have actually, despite being no league titles, I think it's the big thing, but they have won the FA Cup 3 times, League Cup, the Europa League. Even like Ten Hag won 2 trophies in 2 seasons, got sacked, but it's mainly on league position and where we want to be as a club. Like comparing with Chelsea, I think this is the first time, like say 6 months, like Ineos have been in charge. They only really started in the summer, and it's the first transfer window for a long time where it's actually been a sensible transfer window. They brought a lot of younger players in. They've moved on older players, and it's going to take, with a proper structure, it's going to take at least a couple more windows, at least a few more windows to sort out the squad issues we had. I think they've done the right thing, and I think this is the first manager coming in that is going to be backed properly by the club, because like the Glazers are a joke. I don't want to talk about them too much, but the transfers they bring in are not really football-based transfers a lot of the time. There's more like there's a commercial aspect to it. This is the first time we've got like Brada, Wilcox, like all these other guys as well. Their job is to win on the pitch, and that's the reputation. And I think that this is the first time for ages that Amarin's a lucky manager to come in, because Manchester United will have a decent amount of money, but also he's worked extremely well on a budget in Sporting, and I think people have got a bit excited because of the Sporting Lisbon Manchester City result a couple of nights ago. There was a lot of spotlight on that.
That's a nice way to sign into your new club, isn't it? Beating the neighbours.
It's not bad, is it? And the style in which they won with attacking football, an exciting young team as well. There's a lot of things that I like about Amarin, and I think that do seem to work well. When he went to Sporting, one of the first things he did was to reduce the age of like the players in terms of like working well with young players. And we know Manchester United like have a history, but also we've been investing quite a lot in youth, and we've got players in the team like Garnacho, and we've got I think other players that are about to break through, as well as Kobe Mainu. So we've got like a youngish team in the making, and we signed younger players. So I think it all fits together quite well, hopefully. But time will tell, and I think Manchester United they're trying to make right decisions, but it does take a bit of time, even when you get the right people in.
Was Ten Hag then not given enough time? Given more time, would he have been the right manager? Because obviously he had started to introduce these things.
I think like with Ten Hag, his first season he finished 3rd, second season he finished 8th. When he got sacked, we were 14th. There's a bit of a trend there of in not a good way. I think if you look at it, okay, Chris, like I've supported Manchester United for decades. The last couple of seasons, I've probably seen like 8 of our worst 10 defeats ever in terms of like Liverpool 7-0, 6-3 to City, like 4-0 to Crystal Palace, 4-0 to Brentford. And then, I mean, even this
5-3
season,
to Leicester.
well,
Sorry, I just thought I'd throw that one
yeah,
in.
but even this season though, Chris, we've lost 3-0 at home twice.
Mm.
And we hadn't won away in Europe. We hadn't won actually a game in a European competition for 1 year. Van
Wow.
Nistelrooy is the first person to break that. So Ten Hag, he had a terrible record, but we did win the FA Cup. So
Yes.
he won the FA Cup, but he was bad overall.
Well, do you think he'd lost the dressing room?
I think his tactics were unworkable in the Premier League, and I think that's. I don't know if he. I don't think he lost the dressing room dramatically, but I think some of the like you can still see people running themselves into the ground, like people like Garnacho, Bruno, running themselves into the ground for 90 minutes, and you question whether the way we're playing football wasn't sustainable. And I think you can see the writing on the wall, can't you? I think players genuinely look like they don't believe the tactics. Not that they don't try, but there's disbelief. And I'm watching it myself, thinking, what are we even trying to do? And it got to a stage where people messaged me telling me they didn't watch the club anymore because it was too bad.
I was about to say, welcome to my world. I do that every week with Leicester. But I mean, this is the point. I mean, Doug's in. Good evening, Doug. Now, obviously, he's a Liverpool fan, but said Man United really need an overhaul. It's going to take a while before we see United challenging again. Do you think that's been the problem? Because, like I say, I'm a lot older than sort of most presenters and yourself, in fact, and I can remember pre-Fergie when you were, if you like, you were challenging, but it was Liverpool that were the dominant force. Fergie came in, and let's be honest with you, you had amazing success. What that man achieved, I'm sure if he'd sort of gone into the English Channel, he could have crossed without the need of a dinghy. I mean, he credit where credit's due. It's always going to be difficult to follow that. Most successful manager, certainly in England, and I think probably most of the world. But it's taken Liverpool 23 years until they won the title again. I'm not saying you necessarily got to wait 23 years, but as Doug says there, is it going to take a while for you do you think, to get back to that level? And do you have to accept that as fans?
I think it's going to take a little while. I think things can change a bit quicker in football these days because you get a lot of transfers coming in. Players don't necessarily stay at the same club for as long as they used to. I think things can change quicker. Like Manchester United, like we're 13th in the league at the moment, or 12th. We're not the 12th best team in the Premier League. We're significantly better than our league position at the moment. But we're probably at the moment Europa League level, possibly. We're looking at trying to fight into the top four. That's kind of the best we would have been this season, even without this bad start. So I didn't think for any moment Manchester United are up there with the best teams in the Premier League. But what happens though, like Liverpool, they've got Mo Salah going to leave soon, Van Dijk getting older, Trent maybe going to Real Madrid. So Liverpool maybe drop a bit. Chelsea, we know they're a bit inconsistent. Manchester United, with like another couple of good transfer windows, they could look a lot better team. I wouldn't say they challenge for the league, but then if you keep on that right trajectory of, like you saw, Chris, like a few years ago, we're buying players in their 30s and hoping that we can like pick two players to suddenly go from being top four to winning the league, and that's definitely not going to happen. But now we're buying players at the right age where we buy players that are maybe 22, 23, 24 and go, look, I think they came out and said Manchester United wants to try and win the league in 2028. So, okay, that's a few years away. But you could look at it and go, you can have a completely different team in that amount of time. And players that are, say, 2021 now in the team with like 1 or 2 years experience, they've got 5, 6 years experience in a few years' time. I think you could look at a very different team in at least a couple of years. But next season, though, we should be looking at, if we're not top four, we should be disappointed because we know we're going to buy a decent amount of players next summer.
And Joe said here, I mean, this would never happen. We'll say never say never. But she does say, what will relegation, God forbid, do to Man United finances?
I have no idea, actually. Because I think with What is the parachute payments? Because I don't know. Did it affect Leicester's finances? Because you get a buffering, don't you, to some extent?
You
I think with
do, you
Manchester
do.
United, we have
I
like
mean, I
a
think it's a standard one for. So it doesn't matter sort of what size club you're on. Or I could be wrong here. Is it? I mean, we didn't get it as such because we came straight back up. So I think we had to be very careful anyway what we spent because we are on. We opened one door and the EFL were there waiting with the football club catcher nets, like the child catcher out of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. We shut that door and we opened another door and there was the Premier League with the same thing. I think I think with Manchester United is, and there's a big difference, is if you were to get relegated, and obviously I can't see that happening, you're still going to fill your stadium.
Yeah, well, for our stadium, I think the issue Manchester United have got is that some of the contracts, like one of the things that the Glazers and people who put in charge, they're quite good at making money, not very good at spending it in the right way, and not very
Yes.
good at focusing on the team. And I think some of the contracts, I could be wrong, but definitely the Adidas contract in terms of our sponsorship from them used to depend on Champions League football to get the full amount. So if we miss out on Champions League football, that hurts our finances quite a lot. So Joe's question, if we don't get in top four, it affects sponsorships, it affects prize money. And with clubs like Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, all these clubs have very high player salaries. No matter which club they are, they're probably all fairly similar in terms of how much they're paying the players. There's going to be a lot. So Manchester United would have problems. They'd be able to buffer the problems a lot better than other clubs because the Glazers are taking money out. If they didn't take all the money out, Manchester United, like Chris, they'd fill the stadium if they're playing in the Championship or League One. We know that, but the football revenues, like you can't say the Champions League money isn't irrelevant. It's actually quite a lot of money now, and
Yes.
the clubs do need that. And it's kind of like it's not ideal, is it? Because it means the clubs that finish the top like 4, 5, 6, 7 will always have an advantage because they're just going to keep getting more and more money.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yes.
that's
Yeah.
just the way it is at the moment. I think the way it is, like for Joe, like there's no way Manchester United get relegated because of just like the gulf between the Premier League and the Championship at the moment. It's just it's very very difficult.
No matter how bad it gets for Manchester United, there's always going to be three
No,
teams
eighth
worse.
was a crisis. Put it that way, eighth last season was a crisis for
Yeah.
Manchester United.
Yeah,
But not
I
my
say
word.
that crisis every season
No.
and twice on a leap
Not my
year.
words though, Chris. That was like everybody else. That it was a disaster. We won the FA Cup, but it was an absolute disaster. And I was thinking, okay, it could be worse. We could be Spurs and never win anything. But
There is that. You've always got to look and go, yeah, but look at Spurs. I mean, that is very true. That's Spurs' sole purpose in the Premier League now is just to be there so that everybody can say yes, but we could be them. Do you
could you
think?
say
I
the
mean,
positives for like your team, Chris? Like positives for your team. You had a few years where you were very good, and you maximised that completely. You won the league, won the FA Cup. You did everything you possibly could in that window, and you took advantage. But Spurs have been almost good for like 10 years with
yes,
nothing.
yes. I mean, I'm a great believer in football goes round in circles, and we had our 10 seasons in the Premier League. 8 of those are absolutely amazing, and if you'd offered me everything that we had and said, but at the end of it you'll get relegated, you still want to take it? It's too bloody true. I would do. Do you know what I mean? But obviously last season you won the FA Cup, and Ten Hag then obviously got the extension. But that was that. I mean, from the outside, and obviously as a football fan, I'm only ever looking at other clubs than Man United from the outside, so I don't know sort of the full reason. But from the outside, it looked like he almost got the extension because you couldn't get anybody else.
I think you're right, though. I think that's that. Looking at that, I think the release clause for Amarin was higher, but also they looked at other candidates as well. I think Tuchel was like the big candidate that people were talking about, and I think he
Yeah,
wanted more control because he'd been stung a bit with previous clubs,
yeah,
like Chelsea, one of them, and where he
yeah,
went after as well. And I think Manchester United looked at what happened over like this idea of like getting different managers in all the time, and they'd gone right. Look, we're not going to the manager's not going to have full control. control, but they're going to have they have some input, but they wanted to put together a team of people responsible for deciding how Manchester United approach building a team, the transfers, the strategy, and everything. And I think Tuchel didn't buy into that, and they probably, we in June you're trying to focus on transfers as well as doing like the tour as well. And I think it just made it they just tried to do as much as they could. They thought probably that let's give it a year, like for Ten Hag. It's a cheap option, and I don't think they thought it was going to be as bad as it was. I think they
No.
thought, we'd actually be okay with the new players. So it might just be one of the things that, in hindsight, maybe they should have gone for a different manager straight away, but they probably didn't envisage Manchester United starting off so slowly.
No. I mean, the good thing is for yourselves, look, so Jim Ratcliffe, he knows football. He's run other sort of football clubs. I think there's big advantages. He's not American. But I mean, he will come in and he knows sort of what's needed. And obviously, he's a United fan as well. And that can sometimes be a negative. But do you think with Almiron coming in and having Ratcliffe there, then maybe he'll get the backing, like you say, get the time that he wouldn't have got if it had still been the Glaziers?
I think so. Well, I think if the Glazers were in charge, I think they would have definitely sacked Ten Hag at the end of last season because they missed out on top four, and they sacked Louis van Gaal when he finished, I think,
Yeah.
fifth, but won the FA Cup. So I think he'd have got sacked, but I think this time that you got support from, like, not just like for Jim Ratcliffe, he's put a team of people together, and Ineos have put together people like Barada, who built up City, Wilcox as well, people that have done well at different clubs. And even I'm trying to think of the guy's name, Dave Brailsford, who was in charge of like British cycling and the Olympics and had great success with them. So they're good at identifying which people need to be in charge of different
Yeah.
positions. And I think what's interesting and what's good actually is when we're watching Manchester United this season, when we're playing badly, you can see all these executives, they're in Old Trafford watching. So where the Glazers would be sat at a pool in Tampa, just counting their money, we've got people in the stadium
Yeah.
seeing Manchester United fans leaving early, seeing the terrible football, and they've also invested. Like his company's invested like over $1 billion. So you're thinking,
Mm.
okay, right, we need to do something because things aren't working. But they're actually there, seeing it week in week out, which is also for the players as well. If you're playing badly and you can see your bosses in the stand watching you, it's got to you got to
Yeah.
it's definitely got to be a plus, isn't it? So
Well,
the Glazers would do distance.
take anybody in any job. If the boss goes away for a day on a course or something, and you've not got a boss looking over your shoulders,
Exactly. It's not like
you
your
ease
best
off
effort,
the
is
gas
it?
a
Put it
little
that way.
bit, don't you? But look, Ten Hag went. Again, from the outside looking in, I thought, well, it's Ruud van Nistelrooy's position. I mean, I thought he was going to get it. He's not had a bad, couple of games in his temporary role.
He's done all right, hasn't he?
Yeah, but Amiron's come in. But when Amiron, we'll talk about Amiron in a minute, but when he comes in, again, I've read, and I don't know how true this is, that he's going to be bringing all of his staff in. So does that mean that literally Ruud van Nistelrooy's out on his backside?
You think, okay, he's going to bring in at least 5 people, I think. And from what I've seen, I think there's a goalkeeping coach. There's 2 other coaches as well. There's, I think, a sports scientist and maybe a medical, like a staff as well. I
Mm.
think, as a Manchester United fan, I think he has to bring his own team, Chris.
Yes.
Like the reason why Sporting have had the success they've had, and he's had the success he's had, is because you're part of a coaching team. And I'm just wondering, like with Van Nistelrooy, he turned down a couple of positions, like Swansea and Burnley, as managerial
Mm.
positions. Van Nistelrooy has said that he wants to stay, and he will not accept any other job he wants from. If he's not at Manchester United, he's only going to accept coaching, like manager jobs. He's not going to accept this sort of position. But at Manchester United, I think he would probably accept a lower
Yeah.
position. I'm just wondering, is that best for Van Nistelrooy? I mean, as a Manchester United fan, I like Van Nistelrooy. If he has a role at the club, I think that's fine. But for me, I would keep the coaching structure together that worked at Sporting. Let Amrin bring his own guys in. Let them do this stuff. If he thinks there's a role for Rude, then absolutely fine. But don't keep Rude just because you think you have to keep Rude because he's a fan
No.
favourite. I think you've got to do what's best for the club.
And Amiron, I know it's always hard to say because when you get a new manager and you're all sort of everybody sort of he's brilliant, what have you. Happy with the appointment?
I think it looks really promising. There's like so many good things. That look what he's done at Sporting is like the obvious one. And Sporting hadn't won the league for 19 seasons. They've won 2 of the last 5. They've reduced the age of the team. They've this guy, their left wing back Araujo, looks amazing. I think he's got a release clause of about 50, 60 million. They bought him for 6 million. He's
Yeah.
brought people from the youth that are now have release clauses of like 70, 80 that Liverpool are looking at. He's done it like on a bit of a budget as well. He signed. I know you probably hate Coventry, but they got Gyökeres was at Coventry, wasn't he? They got,
Yes.
and he just banged in a hat trick against Man City in the Champions League, and
Yeah.
it's it's very few. I can't find any negatives. Put it that way, Chris. That
And do you
they're
think
playing
he'll be
great
bringing
football.
some of the
Just
players with him?
Pardon?
Do you think he'll be bringing some of the players with him?
I think he did. Like he's been asked this constantly because he's going to
Yes.
Manchester United, and we love transfer speculation. And I think what he said is that he doesn't see the players moving in January, and I think that's out of respect for his club. But also, he does see people like Gyökeres, who's everyone needs a striker in the Premier League. Like he's a great goal scorer. We've seen that last season. I think he scored 40. This season, he's already on like 20. So
Yeah.
I see him leaving the club. If he joins Manchester United, I think we've got a good chance because of the relationship with the manager. And
Yeah.
but there's a lot of other players in the shop window. I don't think Manchester United could buy a crazy number. Also, we should probably not take the approach of trying to buy all of one club because it works well in Sporting, but the Premier League is a different
Yeah.
beast, and it's a tougher league week in, week out. I think ideally he should look at our squad, look at our youth, see what's there, and I would happily take like maybe 1 or 2 players from Sporting if he thinks they work out. Like particularly a goal scorer is always great, but I would be reluctant to try and like pillage a club in the same way we seem to try and buy most of Ajax. It's not the best approach. I think you got to do what's best for your own league and look at your
And I
own
know.
youth as
Well,
well.
say that to Chelsea, who like to try and buy most of Leicester, but that's another story and
Yeah, I
just a
think
personal
Chelsea must
pride.
have like half of Brighton as well, haven't they? Well, they got their
Yeah,
manager,
I
didn't they?
think
And half
I
the
think if
team.
you could merge Chelsea, there was somebody once said to me, "What do you get if you merge Leicester and Brighton, Chelsea?" It's very
But
true.
actually, I think they were like lower in the table than Brighton, weirdly, at that time.
Well, it's money, isn't it? We do know sort of money talks. All they've got to do is sell a hotel, and boom, there you are. Before we get on to obviously we've got the match this weekend, I just want to ask one last question regarding the management. And that's Alex Ferguson. Again, am I reading it right? I mean, I know he's now Jim Ratcliffe stopping a lot of payments, that don't need to be made. I know he stopped 2 million for Alex Ferguson, but was Alex Ferguson going in the dressing room?
I don't know. I think that there was something along. I saw some article where they said he was not allowed to go in, which implies that he has been. To be
Yes,
honest, you can't really have. Well, I think you need to have. What's the best way of putting it? It probably undermines the manager, doesn't it? If you have the old
exactly.
manager,
Well, that
I
was
think
that
there
was
was
going
like
to be
a
my
Liverpool
question.
manager had the same. It's like Matt Busby with Alex Ferguson. It's kind of that's the past, and you need to move on. And
Yes,
Alex Ferguson, if he's going to be an ambassador, that's absolutely fine. But you need to not have that. The players just need to have one manager, and
yes.
he shouldn't really be involved.
As an ambassador, 110%, I understand that, and why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
with Alex Ferguson, but if I was a manager, having a manager that has been that successful looking over
It
your
wasn't working
shoulder.
if he was Chris. If he was going to the dressing room, it wasn't working. Put it that way. So
No, this is very true. This is very true. Look, a couple of weeks ago, we met just after. In fact, it was a bit annoying because we were hoping that Ten Hag would still be in charge.
yeah, I
But we
heard
met.
that.
Yeah, we met you in the Carabao Cup round of 16. Yeah. I mean, looking at that, you're looking at Man United 5, Leicester City 2. Now, whether I've got blue tinted spectacles on, I don't know, but from a Leicester point of view, I watched that game, and I guess it was a free hit because we expected to lose because you would have the new manager bounce, and you could see that the players were playing with a bit of freedom. Um, I don't think that was a 5-2 game. There was like that 20 odd minutes when you absolutely demolished us. But overall, yes, you deserve to win. I'm not taking that away. But I don't think it was essentially what you would normally class as a 5-2 game.
Casemiro doesn't usually do that, though, does he?
No.
Casemiro doesn't normally put it in the top corner from however far he was.
Well,
I think
no.
that's like one of those. I think with Manchester United as well, that it was a bit of a because we've been playing quite badly. I think it was just like a release for the players just to have a bit more freedom on the pitch and just
Mm,
don't have to do what was instructed before. So I think it just like we don't normally go all out that sort of style and like 5-2. We usually actually a bit better defensively. We have been recently, but I think it was just one of those games where we probably put a bit more effort in because we just wanted to, give Van Nistelrooy a bit of a start. But no, I
mm.
think it was one of these games where also we missed some chances near the end. So it could have been like 7, like 3 or something, couldn't it? It could have been like a crazy scoreline.
Could have been. I mean, it was for a neutral. I think it was quite an enjoyable game. I mean, when we looked at your team, it was like, fucking hell, we're going to get mullered here. Apart from your goalkeeper, who I've got to say I hadn't really heard of, everybody else was pretty much they'd walk into anybody else's first
Yeah.
team, And from your point of view, you must have thought, well, coming up against Leicester, newly promoted team, new manager, trying to learn on the job because it was completely everything was new to him because Enzo had taken all his staff and what have you. It was almost a perfect match for Ruud's first match and your first post Ten Hag match.
When we looked at the fixtures coming up, we were going to play Leicester a couple of times. We're going to play Ipswich. We're going to play. Trying to think who else we played in the league. There was like about 5-6 games. PAOK we played last night as well. We had like quite a good run of like games. Apart from the Chelsea game, we had like games where you think, okay, we could actually, we're not playing Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. We're playing like some easier games. So I think it
Mm,
was like not a bad time for Van Nistelrooy to take charge of a few matches. And almost as soon as Van Nistelrooy became interim manager, we almost already lined up our replacement manager. So it became
yeah,
very clear that he was only going to take charge of a few games. So that's why the next few games that Van Nistelrooy knows he's just going to be in charge for a few, so he's not going to do anything too exciting. It's pretty much going to be I think that's why we went with the same sort of team. It's like this is
mm,
the team we know works. So let's just try and get the job done and get through to the next round because then at least it gives the next manager like a platform that he's not getting knocked out of cup competitions. Hopefully we can pick up some points in the league, so we got a bit better position there. And yeah, no, he's had like success as the manager as well though at
yeah.
PSV. So I think he's just he took to it quite well because we got a good team, and also I think you played like a more of a reserve team as well, which helped
We
us.
did, yes, which again made us happy because I mean, I'm looking at it here: 23 goal attempts for you, 16 for us, which again I don't think was that awful, But this is the £1 million question, and I don't know whether you'll be able to answer this or not. Had Ten Hag still been charged of you when we played that game, what sort of result do you think it would have been?
I think we'd have still won, but I think it might have been a different game. It might have been more like a 2-0 or like a more
Yes.
conservative win. I think if Ten Hag, if we'd have been winning the game, I don't think we'd have gone like all out like we did
Yes.
against Leicester. I think it might have been more conservative, but who knows? Like we did beat Barnsley 7-0, although Barnsley are a League One team,
Yeah.
so it might have been lower scoring. I don't know.
I
Maybe you'd
do.
have scored more goals.
Well,
Maybe you'd
I
have
was going to say
that.
we
I don't know.
couldn't put anything past Walsall in 90 minutes of a game. So I don't know, but I mean, you're defending. I mean, our defending sometimes you like, it's got more holes in it than a kitchen sieve. But when Cody
He's a good
came
cup
through to,
manager. Like
sorry,
our cup record's good under Ten Hag, so I think we'd have probably been okay. He seems to be quite good at cup competitions.
I still think you'd have beaten us, to be honest with you, and I think it was a bit of a free hit. I think for us, it gave us a chance to have a look at a couple of players. But I forgot what I was about to say then. It has absolutely gone. No, we'll move on. I can't remember the question. I'm getting old. I can't remember the question that I was going to ask you. Let's move on to the next bit then. Your form at home. That's your home and us away. I think it pretty much sums your season up, doesn't it? Really, you're pretty much on the form tables where you are on the real table.
Yeah, we've had some bad home defeats, put it that way. Spurs 3-0, Liverpool 3-0. They're the doesn't get much worse than that.
Is it not? Is it a case then that you've got to start trying to make Old Trafford a fortress again?
I think we just got to play better in every game. That Old Trafford hasn't been a fortress for like a while. I would say quite a while. I think when you're playing well and you've got the support of your home team, there's no doubt that the top teams will do pretty well at home. I think Manchester United haven't been that great the last couple of seasons. A few years ago, we were actually quite good when we finished third in the league, but now recently we've been quite poor at home. And I think that's just an indication of just the way we're playing, that when we lose quite badly as well. I think we lost 3-0 to Bournemouth at home last season and 4-0 to Crystal Palace. I mean, these aren't elite teams, are they? So there's a lot of problems.
Yes, yeah. I'm not saying anything about elite teams. I've got a good. I live just outside Bournemouth, so I'm going to keep it to
I'd
myself.
expect a big improvement, to be honest, Chris. Like a big improvement on where we've been.
Yeah. Well, something you said, you came into one of my shows a while ago, and we were having a bit of a moan about Cooper and Leicester, and you said, surely you must be, you can't be, too despondent. You're only a couple of points behind Manchester United.
Yeah.
I remember saying, yeah, but if that was Manchester United that were third or fourth in the table, we wouldn't be despondent. But when you look at that, I mean, you sat there, like you say, 13th in the table. If you lose tomorrow on Sunday, I'm going to get used to it being Sunday. If you were to lose on Sunday, we will go above you. So there's like an extra incentive there, because I'm sure you don't want us to go above you.
No, exactly. I think we're just looking up in terms of like we want to try and gain points on the teams above us, and we know Arsenal play Chelsea as well as
Yeah.
a big game on the weekend. So with these games coming up, we just need to focus on winning this game. Like I don't expect an easy game because like Leicester, clearly you need to pick up points as well, just to make sure you don't. I don't think you're in a relegation fight at all, but just to make sure you keep things ticking over. Like any points are going to be useful against top teams. I think United just need to try and be professional, try and at least nothing silly. Don't give Leicester easy goals, and hopefully we've got the quality in the squad to actually win the game. But the main thing is just to try and then back it up with like more good results. I think we've got Ipswich coming up, which again they might be well organised, but we still got to try and approach that game like they're not must wins, but we can't really afford to drop more points because we're going to start looking at like, can we get Europa? And we don't want to be in that position.
Those are teams that you're going to look at, and they are teams that you should look at beating. And that's the game when I look at it, I think, yeah, Man United, do us a favour and beat Ipswich, please. But it's for us. I mean, we've got to beat the teams, because every season you look at the draws, you're like, oh, we could win that will be a loss, we're not going to win that one, we could get a draw there, we could win that one. And whilst I don't necessarily see us winning this, I am a bit worried because we've got yourself. I know we've then got the international break, so you never want to go on into an international break on a hiding. But when we come out of the international break, we've got Chelsea. So if we get no points from those two games, which is a possibility, then we're looking at the teams above us. If they stand out, a couple of them are playing each other, that gap, we could suddenly then be pulled back into that relegation zone. So the team that I think Cooper's going to go for tomorrow is going to be very interesting. And if you were to give me a point now, which I don't think we'll get, but if you were to give me a point now, I would snap your hand off. I'm going to come on to your style of play and whether we can possibly get that point in a second. But I want to talk about players. And you said this yourself about the younger players coming through. Garnacho is an amazing talent. I can never get this guy. I never pronounce this right. Mamu, is it? Is that how you pronounce it?
Mainu.
Manu, yeah.
Yeah, I think he
Um,
might be injured, so we're probably looking at like a Garte Casemiro as our midfield.
oh God, Casemiro, just who we need to see. But those
Yeah,
sorts of players, we were saying before, like where you just go out and buy a player just because he was a name and you wouldn't necessarily care whether he'd fit into your team or not. Some of the best sort of years that you've had were the old, when you brought the youth players through. The class of '96, and yes, things move on, but that surely is the future.
yeah, that's 100%, and that's where you get stability for the club. If you have people come through like Mainu and Garnacho, and you look at other players that are on the verge of breaking through, they could be at the club for a long time if they have a successful career. And I think
Yeah,
at the moment, Manchester United, we're almost talking about buying back a player we let go last just over the summer that went to Benfica, I think, that our left back. But we've got like a really good academy at the moment. I think up to every age level, apart from the first team, they've been league champions recently or youth cup champions. So there's a lot of success coming through. And I think that's going to be key for also, we can't do a Chelsea and pay 100 million for every midfielder. You have to like go, look, we need to balance the books a bit in terms of bringing through some quality players. But there's
yeah,
like a left back called Damas that people have been talking about for a couple of years. He's still only 17, but people are just getting overexcited about whether he'll play. And like there's a player called Collier who played a couple of games this season. So I think Manchester United have got like at least three or four names that are like they've been in reserve teams, and people keep thinking we're going to see them play some minutes. Like last night, they didn't get used, but they're on the bench. I think against Leicester, there was a few youth players on the bench. We thought maybe they could come on, and I was a bit disappointed we didn't put a couple on when we're up 5-2. You think, okay, this is a good time to put someone
yeah.
on for 5 minutes just to give them some games. But I think that's the key. Like, look at building through the youth, but also you have the ability to buy like a superstar player if one really fits, but that's kind of like the icing on the cake. Once you've got your team sorted out, and you can buy that big player, but you can't build your whole team by trying to buy those sort of players. You
No,
got to look for the youth.
no. Oh, we're exactly the same. We have gone and bought experience. I mean, I think we're like the Derby and Jones club. We've got AU, who has actually been very, very good. We've got Edward, we've got Takova Reed. I mean, these guys can't play on a Thursday because it's pension day and they've got to be down the post office getting the pension. But we got a couple of young players, and Alves is the main one. And you see, every manager comes in and goes, "Oh yeah, he's going to be breaking through," and you're thinking, "Well, when is he going to break through? I'll be dead before he breaks into the first team." But I'm going to have to nail you down on this, and I guess it's hard for you. But name me a danger man.
So Manchester United,
Yes.
for I think at the moment, okay, we're probably going to start with because Ahmad Jallow started last night, and a lot of people wanted him to start more games. I'm thinking that it might be Rashford and Garnacho starting, although I would be happy to give Amar Jallow a start. I think Rashford's always a danger, but
Mm.
maybe Højlund could be a danger man as well. He's not been on good form, but it's going to be one of those players, I think. I wouldn't have picked Casemiro as a danger man, although he was a danger man against you last
Yeah.
time. No, I think any one of those players like Bruno Fernandes could be a danger man. I think in terms of
Yeah.
goal scoring, though, it's the attacking players. Any one of them could have like a big game, like Jallo, Garnacho, Rashford, Højlund. I would say most likely at the moment it might be Garnacho and Rashford starting. So I think one of those guys might be the most likely goal scorer.
Yeah. And I mean, I can tell you what. I mean, we are almost certainly 99.999%. We're going to be going out with a 4-2-3-1. What sort of formation do you see Rude playing? Will it be pretty much the same as we saw when you played us in the cup?
I think pretty much the same. I think he's just trying to setup similar, but when we're attacking, we're not throwing people forward to the same extent that we leave midfield very exposed. I think against us, if you played us near the start of the season, Casemiro would probably be trying to cover half the pitch on his own. But I think with Agate now signed and also playing more compact, I think out of possession would be quite compact and quite hard to play through. But we wouldn't. I don't think we'd be trying to do the pressing that we tried to do at the start of the season. So I think we're a bit better defensively, and I suppose against the last couple of games when he conceded one goal, I think we might be a bit more exciting in attack. That's what I'm hoping. So I'm expecting probably a similar game from. I think we'll try and step it up a bit from like when we played during the cup because obviously it's a league match and it's like the priority competition.
The thing that was with the league game, with the cup game, sorry, that surprised me was your defence. I mean, like we touched on it earlier. I mean, Connor Cody scoring. I mean, he had the freedom of Old Trafford virtually when he got our second. All right, it was never going to change the outcome of the game. But I looked at that and I thought, wow, I wasn't expecting that defending from Man United.
No, well, I think in this game, like no disrespect, like as a weakened Leicester team, and I think we just went for it to try and get goals because we just even like towards the end of the game we still created some chances and we just went for it. I think it's like if you watch Ten Hag football, and I guess you probably didn't watch too much of it, which is probably good for you, but a hard watch for Man United fans. I think we'd scored like the Premier League so far, 10 games in, we've only scored 9 goals. So we've really struggled in front of goal. And I think the cup game against you guys, it was just like a relief that once we scored a couple of early goals, I think we just went for it and we didn't really think too much about defending. Which because I looked at it and thought we just like tonight we just think we can score like 4 or 5, so we're not going to care if we concede a few.
Once you got that 2-goal clearance, then against a promoted team with the second tier out, you probably felt reasonably in control. This will not surprise. Oh, say one thing. As a Manchester United fan, I know you hate Manchester City. Now, if you were to allow us to at least get 1 goal on Sunday, then we will be continuing the record of being only one of 2 teams that have scored in every game this season. The other one being Man City. Now, we can't have any control over what Man City do, but if you just let us get the 1, then at least we can keep up with them and hopefully beat them.
I'd take a 2-1, 3-1. I'd take any if you scored a goal and we won, I'd be like happy. For me, it's a win's a win. If we got a clean sheet, it's like a bonus, but I'm happy with any win.
Yeah. Not surprisingly, your odds on to win 4-11. As we always say, gambling is not the answer to everything, and when the fun stops. Leicester 6-1 outsiders. The draw's 4-1. I think what you're looking at there, even with Man United sort of present predicament and form, I think those odds didn't surprise me when I put them up. Let me put it that way. But I have now got to ask you the big question. What is your score prediction?
So I was going to say 2-1. I don't know if that's been conservative, but I should stick with that because I've said 2-1 when people have asked me in the past. I think Manchester United will win, maybe not spectacularly, but I think it'll be one of those games where, like you scored 2 goals against us in the cup, and I think Manchester United often do have that issue that we give a bit too much space to people sometimes. But I've got to be confident in my team on the back of like a couple of good results recently. So I'm going to say 2-1 to United, and we'll be very happy with a win.
You'd be happy with that. Well, I've got to say that my predicting this season has been bloody awful. And I am bottom of our prediction league. So I rather than actually stay loyal to Leicester this season, I've decided that points in the prediction league are more important to me because I don't think we'll win. And I'm not being disrespectful to Leicester. I just don't. I've actually gone 3-2 to Manchester United. So I've given us the fact that we're going to get a couple of goals and we'll give you a go. But I do think that you will come out winners. Of course, the other thing is reverse psychology. Because I'm so bloody bad at predicting, of course, we could go and now
I predicted a lot of wins this season for Man United. And I think I got to the West Ham game and I said, "Look, I'm not going to predict a win anymore. I think we'll draw." And I think in the end we lost that. It was a dodgy penalty
Oh,
in my
that was.
opinion, but
I was
we
speaking
lost.
to a West Ham friend, and he said, as even as a West Ham fan, no way was that a penalty. You know,
I looked at it and just thought, two people run into each other. It's not even a foul. It's
yes.
I don't know. It was a.
But
I
then
think it
again,
was
when
one of
it's
those
your
ones where
when it's, I mean, well, we played Ipswich the other day, and Ipswich went mad because Fatawu and one of their players collided in the box. Now, all right, if it had been the other end, I might have been screaming for the penalty. But the funny thing is, they were going absolutely mad at VAR and the referee for not even looking at it, blah blah blah. And yet they forget last season that Kieran Dewsbury Hall was sandwiched between two Ipswich players in the penalty box, went over, and we didn't get anything. It's amazing that when it comes to penalties, memories are very, very short.
no, to me, it's just like a poor decision, and it's one where I don't think, like Manchester United, maybe we didn't do enough to win the game because we had chances, we didn't take them. But
Yeah,
when you lose a game like that, and like the Bruno Fernandes got sent off against Spurs again, it didn't really change the game in that one. But they, as soon as the match was over, they rescinded the red and go, look, it's just a bad decision, and it's just
yeah,
even if the decision goes your way, it's like they're quite basic, aren't they? In terms of like, you watch two people run into each other. Like,
yeah.
what's the lit supposed to do? He just stands there,
Yeah.
and but it's like
I
farcical decision, isn't
loved
it?
that season. Yes, like I say earlier in the show, some of the decisions you still went like, "Oh my god!" But you accepted it was human error. But what I loved about it was you scored a goal, you looked over at the linesman. If his flag was down, you just celebrated. You weren't waiting for 10 minutes to see whether you celebrated a goal or not.
Now you like celebrate, and then it's like, oh, VAR check, and go, oh, okay, let's
Yes, yes.
wait and
And then
see
by the
that. I
time
don't know.
they've come back and said, "Yeah, it's a goal," you got past celebrating now, but hopes for this season for Manchester United with everything that's gone on. I'm sure at the start of the season you had hopes of what you might manage, but what are your hopes now?
I think my current hopes now are, but I've still got people that tell me we're going to get top four. I don't think it's top four. I've got a bet with G Wolf that we don't get top four. Like no money, but one of us has to wear clown makeup. I said we're not going to get top four. That's my. I just don't see how we do because
Oh, I
we
look
have to
forward to
rely on
that.
a lot of people to lose. I think Manchester United, like realistically, I think it's the Europa League position. So what's that? Fifth, sixth, seventh, possibly
Yeah.
eighth if there's five Champions Leagues. So I think that's the sort of area Manchester United will finish. Like we should finish above, hopefully like Newcastle. But you look at like say Spurs, Villa, Chelsea. I think a couple of those might finish above us, depending on how things go. But no, best case scenario could be like fifth. It'd be very surprising if we got fourth, but you never know. There's still a long way to go. But I think my hopes really is that let's win a cup. And I'm looking at the Europa League and thinking the best teams in the Europa League. I think it's like Atletico and Spurs, and there's possibly I think there might be Ajax, Galatasaray. So you look at that and go, look, those teams aren't like the cities and Liverpools of this world, or Real Madrid's like Barcelona. Let's win that
Yeah.
competition if we can, because that would be quite a nice one. And also that's Champions League football. So I'm looking at the Europa League and thinking, let's go for that one. And anything else would be like a bonus, like decent league position. But the main thing, Chris, like this is a boring answer, but the main thing is I'd like to see Amarin try and like properly assess our squad to try and work out which players get moved on, get a style of play, and start trying to put in things now that benefit us in the future. So if we have to like go, look, this player, we need to move him on, even if it makes us a little bit weaker this season, let's just try and make sure that in a couple of seasons we're not in the same sort of position where we're going, look, can we scrape top four or something? Because that won't be ideal.
Mm. I'm going to, like I say, with the Europa League, you'll be fine as long as it doesn't go to penalties. Sorry, I shouldn't have.
Yeah,
I
20
shouldn't.
penalties or
I'm
so it
sorry.
was.
It's a cheap shot, but I'd be shot if I didn't. I'm going to let you go. Last question before you go, just to give us your thoughts on Leicester. I mean, we went down, we came straight back up under Enzo. We looked like we were supposed to be getting a points deduction, which we got out of we weren't illegal. We just played, by the rules, and the rules just weren't very good. but it looks like we're going to have a struggling season. From the outside looking in, what are your thoughts on Leicester City?
I don't think you're in a relegation fight, because I'm looking at the league and thinking the other teams that came up, Southampton, Ipswich, I think they'll struggle to stay in based on the quality of the players they've got. Crystal Palace, Wolves, they're poor teams. I think Leicester are pretty much that. If you get promoted to the Premier League, it's always going to be a bit of a struggle. I think possibly even more recently because of the amount of money that even like West Ham spent a lot of money. But I see that Leicester's being like, no, if you finish 15th, some run there, I think it's difficult the first season back, and you just need to make sure you don't get relegated. I think overall, but if you'd have beaten Ipswich, I thought you might beat Ipswich. You didn't. If you'd lost that game, it could have been. You might look at the league table a bit differently, but I think Leicester will be fine. I think it's just a case of don't do anything silly, because in the past you've bought quite well. I think you just had a bad season when you got relegated. I think just stay in the Premier League and then try and build on it next season. Because I know you hate Forest, but they somehow stayed in the Premier League and somehow they're doing quite well. I don't know how,
They
but
are doing. I have to say, as much I don't like Forest, obviously, but I've got to say, hats off to them. I had them finishing 20th this season. Remember what I was saying about being a bad
I'd
pundit?
have like put them like 12th or something. But no, it's crazy what they're doing. But
They're doing
if you
well,
can
and
stay in the
fair
Premier
play
League,
to them.
like teams like Brighton and did, yeah,
Mm.
you can build on this. So I think
Yeah.
it's not too bad, is it, at the moment for a team
I
coming up?
think our hope,
You're not in the bottom three.
our hope is 17th, and anything above that is a bonus. And like you say, it's just a case of coming up, staying up in the first season, and of course for us, second season, just going on and win the Premier League. That's what we like to do in our second season after getting promoted. Rich, thanks very much for coming on, mate. I won't wish you all the best this weekend because obviously I wouldn't mean it. But look, I just hope Almiron is given the time. And I think, with Sir Jim Ratcliffe now at the helm, I think it's going to be a complete different kettle of fish. I really do. And I hope he gives Almiron the time, which we all thought Ten Hag would get, but unfortunately didn't. But good luck for the rest of the season. Again, just give a quick shout out to your to where people can find you again.
Yes, people can find me on United TV or RD United TV. So if you Google United TV, we'll be there doing Manchester United, also Premier League content as well. We're going to start doing our Premier League podcast, sort of Big Six show, hopefully quite soon, where we're trying to get like a mix of like one guest supporting like different clubs
Yeah.
to have like a bit more of a debate. But yeah, no, hopefully check us out, and we also do a lot of other sort of European stuff as well. So if you just enjoy chatting about football, and obviously like make sure you subscribe to Chris as well, but also come on and say hello to us, United TV as well.
Will do. Brilliant. I'll see you obviously later in the season as well. All the best and thanks for coming on, Rich.
Cheers, Chris. Good luck, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks so much. Take care. Cheers, buddy.
You too.
Cheers. And Rich's link is also in the description below in the chat. Go and check him out. Interesting to see his thoughts on what is going to happen. Welcome along, Geordie. How are you doing? Nice to see you. To see you, nice. Hey, see what I did there. Friday nights is now the preview night because the prediction night's now over on a Thursday because we've got Big Bad Dave back with us. He's big, he's bad, and he's called Dave. So there we go. That's what you get. Cheers, Rich. All the best, mate. Take care, and good luck for the rest of the season. Apart from obviously when you play us, I don't think you'll need a lot of luck when you play us. To be honest with you, I'm certainly looking at this as a not a free hit. Well, yeah, I suppose it's the nearest thing to a free hit, but you've got to look at how. I kind of wish that Ten Hag was still in charge. And I think a lot of Leicester fans have said that. And that's not disrespecting Man United or disrespecting Ten Hag, but you are obviously struggling under Ten Hag. And Ruud van Nistelrooy, I don't know if anybody's ever watched that film, The Eagle Has Landed. It was a war film. And they got rid of one of the Americans in charge, and the German said, "Oh, we don't like this because the other guy knows what he's doing." I feel it's a bit like that with Man United. Does Ruud? He's been at PSV, it's no easy job. So it's going to be interesting. I'd sooner have had Ten Hag still in charge. So maybe not a total free hit. Maybe we could look at this, and who knows? Maybe get a point. We're more likely to get a point against United than we are against Liverpool or Man City or Forest, who are third. And well done to them. So, and that's purely looking on the form at the moment. So, Steve Cooper, will he be under pressure? I mean, this is the time when decisions are being made by clubs, because I think there's a couple of clubs there that could see their managers go this weekend, depending what happens. I mean, look, Coventry have just got rid of their manager, which I like Mark Robins. In fact, before we had Enzo, two of the 3 or 4 managers that I actually wanted, because nobody knew that Enzo was going to be coming in. One of them was, funnily enough, was Kieran McKenna from Ipswich. I would have liked him. And the other one was Mark Robins. And I think he'd done a good job, and I thought he would have been a good manager for us in the Championship. I mean, to take a team that was in the 4th tier at one point, I think, when he took charge, getting them to the Championship, getting them to a playoff final, getting them to within a whisker of beating Manchester United and getting to an FA Cup final, and then they sack him 10 games into a season. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I mean, I don't know. Look, I don't follow Coventry. I apparently they're struggling this season, but it's still early days. It's still 10 days, 10 games in. Maybe a few more for the Championship clubs, obviously. Was it the fans that were demanding it? I don't know. Just seems strange. I mean, there's certain times of the season when clubs and the hierarchy of clubs will look at it and go, right, this is when we're going to change our manager. And if you're struggling, then managers or owners of clubs should be in the position where they're looking at things and going, right, if we were to sack Dave Smith, who might we look at? And they should have a list ready. Now, obviously, when we lost Enzo, we weren't expecting him to go because we weren't going to sack him. So we didn't have that sort of backup plan. But if you're looking at it and going, well, he might go. And as I'm looking at this, 2 managers that I think could really, really, really be in trouble. Gary O'Neill at Wolves. And I know what everybody's been saying to me. Oh, look, they've had a really tough start. They've played most of the top 6 in their first games. But games that they're losing, they could have drawn. Games that they're drawing, they should have won some of the time. And they are an established Premier League team, so they should be doing better, whoever they're playing. Because look at Bournemouth. Bournemouth beating Arsenal. Bournemouth beating Manchester City. Well played to them. But Bournemouth are an established Premier League team. You wouldn't expect Leicester, Ipswich or Southampton to win those 2 games. So Wolves should have been doing better. And I know our friend Paddy at Up the Cherries in All Departments is the love child of Gary O'Neill. But I'm sorry, Paddy. I think he could be gone. I really do think he could be gone. You're playing Southampton Wolves this weekend. And I think Martin Russell, is it, at Southampton's got a bit more credit in the bank than Gary O'Neill has. I don't think he is an established Premier League manager. That's the trouble. He took over at Bournemouth. That was his first manager's job after the bin man Scott Parker left. I just don't rate him. I'm sorry. The other manager I think that could be in trouble, and that's Lopetegui. Is it Lopetegui, however you pronounce it? Lopetegui Kajagoogoo at West Ham United. Now, again, they're sat in 14th. They've only won 3 games of the 10, drawn 2, lost 5, scored 13, conceded 19. But taking over from David Moyes, who I was watching a podcast. He was on a podcast with Gary Neville, the Gary Neville, Ian Wright, Roy Keane podcast. And he was saying that he was offered a contract. It wasn't particularly brilliant, so he didn't sign it, lost the next 3 games, and they withdrew the contract. But he did feel it was probably time to go anyway, so fair enough. But you've got to replace a manager with somebody better. Who was this guy when he came in? He'd been at Wolves. Had he done anything at Wolves? Not particularly. Was he the manager that could probably take them to the next level? Yes, he'd been at Real Madrid, I don't know how long for, but he was never going to be that manager. And we had Jake on. He did a pre-record video for me for our Monday night show, which is the weekend review show that we do for the Premier League on a Monday night at 7 o'clock with Tom. And he did a pre-record video for me on that on West Ham. They're not happy. The West Ham fans are not happy at all. So he could go. I don't think any other managers particularly in any sort of trouble at all. But it could be those. It's an international break. Look at Leicester. We had not an international break. We had a World Cup break, and maybe we should have got rid of Rodgers then. Who knows if things might have been a little bit different. Okay, let's have a look. This was the team that we put out last time against Ipswich. Hermansen in goal, Ricardo, Vestergaard, Pays, Christensen. I like that back four. In a way, I was a little bit surprised at Okoli being dropped. Okoli, I wasn't keen on him pre-season, but he's earned his right to be in the team, I think. That said, Vestergaard came back, and he's I can't believe, because people in the watch along were going, yeah, Vestergaard's back and brilliant. And against Man United, Vestergaard's coming on, brilliant, yeah. And I just surprised, because if you remember how people used to feel about Vestergaard, but he gives us a assurance in that defence. Yes, we know he's not got the speed, and he's got the turning circle of the Titanic, but what he does quietly. There'll be a player about to go through, and he'll literally just stick his foot out, stop the ball, stop the player, and he can pass. What Vestergaard can do, he can pass the ball from one penalty spot, and I bet you could land it on the penalty spot at the other end. Brilliant. Christensen, I like Christensen. He offers a lot. I'm going to pick my team in a minute for Bran United. Winks had a decent game. Ndidi. Then you got Buenotti. Now, Buenotti, look, we know how good he is. Thing is, though, is he too good for Leicester? Because he's trying to do it all on his own. And if you remember, I compared it to when I used to live in Burnley, and I took the kids along to watch Paul Gascoigne, who played for Burnley for a season. And Paul Gascoigne's brain was getting him to play through balls. But he was at this level, and the Burnley players were at this level. And that's no disrespect. It was just they were a championship side. And I just think whether is that with Buenotti, because he doesn't seem to trust his teammates. And he needs to be told, maybe even not start a game, and maybe stick El Canoes in there and say to Buenotti, come on, what you need to do is don't take it all on yourself. Don't have a shot just because you think you can do. The other day, he went past 4 or 5 Ipswich players, and Fatawu was shouting for the ball. Or was it Man United? I can't remember which game it was now. Shouting for the ball, and he took a shot. Mavadidi it was. So Mavadidi was there on the left, open, nobody on him, and he took the shot. He needs to start trusting the other players. Fatawu, Mavadidi, they have good games, they have bad games. I was looking forward to seeing them in the Premier League. I thought they were going to rip some defences apart. They're young, they're still learning, but I do like, if you haven't, Buenete, Fatawu, and Mavadidi, what they give you as those three players behind Vardy is no fear. They won't always get it right, but they'll have a go. And that's what you need. Sometimes the best form of defence is attack. Indeed, let's just not go there. Fans' feelings about Ndidi are split. And I've come down on the side of the fence, which is I don't have him in my team. Vardy has got to start. Please don't start Ayew on the wing. I know Ayew doesn't want to become a super sub, but that's how it seems to work better. He doesn't play well on the wing, and he doesn't seem to play well when you start him. But bringing him on, there's just something about him. That's his role. Daka could be back. I think he'll probably be on the subs bench, maybe, depending how the game's going, get the last 15 minutes. We'll see. We'll see. What about this man? Has he earned a starting lineup? Or has he earned a starting place, I should say. Sorry. For me, you'll see in a minute, but I'll tell you now, yes. He did well when he came on against Manchester United. And we would not have got a point against Ipswich had it not been for Boubakary Soumaré. We are finally, I think, seeing. And I wrote a bit for the BBC. Hi, Steve. How you doing? Welcome along, mate. Nice to see you. Thanks for popping in. I think we're starting to possibly see the player we thought we had. I wrote a bit for the BBC. I write on a Tuesday. Kate writes on the following Tuesday, then me, then Kate, then me, then Kate. This Tuesday just gone, I've written it, and I've written it about this guy. And it says, is Boubakary Soumaré the midfield enforcer that we need? We've been saying for ages we need somebody, and I know Chowdhury can do it to a point, but we need somebody that will sit in that midfield position and go, thou shalt not pass. That is not Ndidi. He's not the player he was, and that used to be his strength. His strength was tackling. I'm sorry, Ndidi can't pass wind, and that's his problem. When he gets the ball, he's got no idea what he's doing with it. Andrea saying he's not good, though. Is he not? We would not have scored that goal against Ipswich. What he did was he ran back. He chased that Ipswich player down. He won the ball, and he didn't just win it. He fought for that ball, wouldn't give it up, got the ball, ran upfield with it. There was another Ipswich player came in. He swatted him away like a fly. The just landed up on his arse. Played it to Ayew, and the rest of is history. So it's all about opinions, Andreas. I respect yours, but yes, I think he is good enough. And the problem we're going to have with this guy is like so many other players, and I will quote you Kelechi Iheanacho for this. Kelechi Iheanacho, and it was obviously because Jamie Vardy was coming through, and we're only playing one up front, and you can never drop Jamie Vardy. And Kelechi Iheanacho was getting 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there, a start in the cup, and he wasn't getting any regular game time. And so when he was on, he was coming on for 10 minutes, he's not going to get you a hat-trick in that time. But when he did, because of all the injuries, including Vardy, he started scoring goals because he was playing regularly. And that one season, when Vardy came back, Vardy was actually the supplier to Iheanacho getting the goals. And Iheanacho was our top goal scorer for that season. And we're not careful, that's what's going to happen with Soumaré. We've got to get him on, and we've got to give him the minutes. And if he has a bad game, that's fine. We do not cast him aside. If he has a bit of a bad game, we go, right, okay, that's one bad game. But you've got to persevere with these players sometimes. So let's have a look at my team, shall we? And you might agree, you might disagree with this. Be interesting to see what you think, guys. But here is the team that I've gone for. Amanson in goal, obviously. Back for pretty much the three of the four were what played Ipswich. Ricardo, Faes, Vestergaard. I would bring Justin back, though, for Christensen. If Justin's on his form, he's just got that little bit extra. Christensen, when he wants to go forward, he goes and he gets a good cross in. But I'd say 5 times out of 10, when he's going down that left wing, Christensen, he actually stops and plays it back, which is not what you want. So I would have Justin in there. Yes, I would put Samari in there. I just said I would do. I've explained why. Samari's in there next to Winks. I did think about having Skip in, but I've skipped that idea. See what I did there? So I think Winks with his experience. Fatawu, Buenete and Mavadidi, I've just spoken about them as well, so that goes without saying. And Vardy, even if Daka's fit, you've got to start Vardy, I think. And Daka's not going to come on and start the game when he's been injured. I think bring him on for the last 15, 20 if the game works out like that. We then got the international break. Then coming up after that, we've got Chelsea. And this is the worrying thing. And we've had a pretty good run where we haven't had like Wolves, a run of top clubs altogether. But this until I think it's March when we have a really bad run of all the big clubs. But here we've got Man United, we've got a gap, we've got Chelsea. I would be happy with a point from those 2 games. But the problem is that obviously the teams behind, they could be closing the gap depending on who they've got. So it is going to be a tough period. And maybe having the break in between might not be such a bad idea. Look, we're not here tomorrow because obviously we're not playing until Sunday. Sunday is a 2 o'clock kickoff. So join me and Brad, possibly, from 1:15 for Manchester United versus Leicester. We'll get the team news and the pre-match analysis. Brad might be a bit late, in which case it will just be me. 2 o'clock first half watch along. Then, of course, half-time analysis. We'll have the second half watch along. Then we'll have the post-match reaction with myself, Brad, and Wayne, plus another, which we're still to confirm at this point. We'll also have Kate, who's going to go to the match. So she'll be joining us, sending us a video before the game of her thoughts on her way to the match. And then also giving us a live reaction post-match as well. Man United. What are we going to do? Are we going to get any points here? Who knows? We might do. I think we're more likely to get a point at Man United than we are at Chelsea. Simply because of the trouble that Man United are in at the moment. I've got to say, fair play to them. What I did do was, as soon as they knew they were sacking Ten Hag, Amiron was in before Van Nistelrooy had even, taken charge of a training session, I think. So fair play to them on that. But it is Van Nistelrooy in the dugout tomorrow. Steve Cooper's back in the dugout. His 1-match ban is over. And will that make a difference? Of course, 10 days ago, we were there. They beat us 5-2. It was our B team. We'll see what happens. This is a league game. Guys, I will see you, like I say, not tomorrow, because tomorrow we are not playing. I will see you, like I say, 1:15 on Sunday afternoon for the watch along against Man United. Thanks to Rich for joining me earlier. His link's in the description below. Please do go and get it and check him out. Does Man United stuff? Yes, but he also does general Premier League and football stuff and Europe as well. And he isn't a typical Man United fan. I'll leave you to judge that. But thank you very much. Please like, please subscribe, please click the notification bell. And for only $1.99 a month, please do consider becoming a channel member. It really, really, really does help. The channel in these expensive times. I'll see you on Sunday. Thank you very, very much. Take care and have a good weekend until then. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.